Hey there, Film Buds. Welcome back to the Film Buds podcast. I'm your host, Paul.
And I'm Lauren.
And this is episode 216. It's part 2 of our sort of Easter season religious horror special that we've been doing. The last episode that we did was all about Prince of Darkness and Deadly Blessing. We had Glenn Benest on. It was a pretty good episode. This week we decided to switch it up, and we talked about it when we were watching it, which was not when it came out.
Yes.
What we're doing is we decided to do a show, and we're doing Midnight Mass, which takes place during the Easter season. And so we decided it takes place during Lent, essentially.
Well, it starts at Lent and then it goes to Easter. Like, that's the time frame.
And so it's perfectly, in time for this Friday because it's going to be Easter Sunday this Sunday. And so we decided that we would go and do Midnight Mass. It's actually sort of two big holidays happening this weekend. Passover starts today when people are listening to it, Friday.
Oh, cool. Mm-hmm. Oh, this all is making a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's sort of what we have in store. We're going to go and talk about the show, and we're going to talk about Catholicism and some of the big themes and structures of the show, and sort of how we feel about Mike Flanagan overall. And I think it's going to be a good episode overall. I guess before we get started, just out of curiosity, what is your overall experience or familiarity with Catholicism?
My experience with Catholicism. So not a lot. I grew up in a Black Baptist household. So everywhere from old stuffy Black Baptist church in the South, where the preacher is old as Methuselah and so is the congregation, to the very, like, I guess, Pentecostal Black Southern Baptist church, very loud, people running, a lot of fun hats. So Catholicism is like a foreign language for me. The only time I've ever been in the Catholic Church, actually, I lied. I've been in the Catholic Church twice. One for Mass, another we sang at a wedding.
Oh, okay.
Both times were in high school chorus.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And then my second time was a trip to LA, was a chorus trip that I took in high school. We ended up going to Mass because my chorus teacher is Catholic, and so we set up on the top balcony of this very huge church. It was gigantic, and I don't remember the whole thing because I definitely fell asleep. So that's pretty much like my entire experience with Catholicism. Like, I know that they're super enthusiastic about not having any fun in church.
Okay. No, that's all interesting. So I have been to Catholic services a few times.
Okay.
I have some family members on both sides of the family that are Catholic.
Fascinating.
I have I'm not sure how my uncle became Catholic. Maybe because of my aunt.
I mean, marriage sounds right.
So I think that's how my uncle ended up becoming Catholic. I don't think that it's anything that was, like, sort of on either side of my family, really. I think it is something that, for the most part, like, a lot of my family, like, went into. You know what I mean? Like, we don't
Yeah.
have, like, any... Like, my grandparents weren't Catholic on either side of the family. But I've been to a few Catholic services before. I've been to, like, a modern... I don't think that it was an overly Orthodox Catholic funeral service.
I've never been to a funeral that wasn't for family, so I have no idea what that's like.
So it's quite the experience. I've definitely done a lot of different types of churches. I once did a weird kind of, like, ultra Baptist church that had, like, a laser light show and fog machines.
Oh, that's weird.
In Mississippi, I think it was.
That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. That doesn't sound like any Baptist church I've ever been to. But honestly, like, in a broad sense, my understanding, I guess, of Christianity and its many fascinating avenues is very limited. Like, it's a constant, like, new thing of going deeper into all of the different doors of Christian.
No, yeah.
Because they all, have different rules. They all don't like each other for different reasons. They all think that they're the best version of it. But I didn't know that just being Baptist, because I feel like everybody I knew was Baptist. So I was just like, oh, this is just what Christianity is, like, period.
So, I grew up Methodist. I went to a lot of Catholic services. It always felt like it was more serious of an event. There were some people at several of the Methodist churches that I went to, pretty much all of them. There were definitely people who were there just to go to church. But, like, the Catholic services that I all went to were very much more of an affair, I would say. Much more ceremony in place. Definitely one of the more Orthodox sort of services that I went to, it was a considerable amount of kneeling and standing.
Oh, God.
So it was, like, I've been to quite a few different types. And it's definitely quite the production. But yeah, I grew up Methodist, and, like, people took it seriously for sure. At both of the, like, big churches that I grew up in. People took it very seriously, but not to the same degree that it was being taken in the Catholic services that I went to.
I think that that's fair. I mean, like, Catholicism is apparently, like, the fanciest version of Christianity, because they're, like, the closest to the Pope. What prestige. And it really shows in Midnight Mass.
So here's, I guess, another question.
Okay.
A little bit less loaded on a certain level. That was, like, a broad question, and I do apologize for it. What's your experience with, like, Catholicism in movies, shows, musicals, plays, media at large? What's your opinion of Catholicism based on?
Okay, are the Catholics the ones with the nuns?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then, any musical that has nuns involved in it, I bet you that is not probably the most accurate version of that, but, it's what I've got. So, like, The Sound of Music. I grew up watching that movie. It's my mother's favorite movie. She loves The Sound of Music. I watched that movie to death. We watched Nonsense.
Yeah, we did watch Nonsense. You grew up watching Sister Act.
Oh yeah, I love Sister Act. Sister Act 1 and 2, perfect pair. I think at this point, if they made a third one, it would ruin it. Or if they have made a third one, I will remain ignorant.
Huh.
Um, perfect movies. I love Whoopi in those movies. She's fantastic. I used to watch a lot of Whoopi, but that's another story for another day. Some religious horror movies like The Exorcist and stuff like that. I don't know.
The sort of mysticism of Catholicism, more so.
Yeah,
on that side.
or that season of American Horror Story.
Asylum.
Yeah, I think so. That. So like nothing is truly what I would consider. Oh gosh, what's that play? Doubt. Is that it?
Yeah. The one that ended up becoming a movie with Amy Adams, Meryl Streep, and Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yes, that. So a lot of like, yeah, to your point, dramatized versions of it, because honestly, I think that you have to bring it into it, or else it would be boring a little bit. Like, I don't remember being like jazzed about going to the Catholic Church.
No, I think that's definitely...
If you want a fun time, you come to a Baptist church. They're a blast.
I think that is definitely fair. It's... in media you definitely get, I think, a lot of swinging sides of it. It's... I just saw the figure of supposedly the number of Catholics in the world. Supposedly there are 1.3 this doesn't seem right, billion Catholics in the world.
In the world? I think that's an accurate number, because you have to think about where Catholics reside on the globe.
Yeah.
It's not just like us.
No, you do make good points, obviously.
Because they've had popes from all over, pretty much Europe is just like smacked with Catholics.
Yeah.
So, no, I think that 1.345 billion Catholics is totally a possibility.
Yeah, South America has a lot of Catholics.
Yeah, exactly. Because
all of Europe has a lot of Catholics.
Because the thing is, at the base, at the root of what Christianity is, it's a thing that needs to spread. Because the whole thing that they tell you all the time is to spread the gospel. You are trying to get more followers.
No, yeah.
And so, like, it's one of the top 3 when it comes to religions in the world.
Yeah.
So, billion Catholics.
Yeah. And so I think that it's definitely displayed in a lot of different ways. It has been used, I think a lot in horror. If you really think about a lot of horror movies in general that include religion, it's not typically like, Episcopalian.
No, it's the extremes.
Because they have all of the ceremony and also the history of that sort of mysticism layer, which is also something that they tap into a lot with horror and gothic things, and And also, like, the church was in charge for so long too that, like, it has such you can go into any generation of Catholicism and find something interesting to play on, especially in horror, because of the structure of it, because of the long lineage of it, and because of the power that they hold. No, yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And it goes so far back into human history. I mean, we're going and talking back before, like, the thousands of the establishment of Christianity as a dominant religion. And so I think that you also see with Catholicism it as, very much depicted as something that's full of a lot of guilt. I think is something that you often see associated with Catholicism in media.
Yeah.
as a way to sort of draw on repentance as an idea.
Yeah, I was thinking about the fact that there's a lot of rigidity to it. There's not a lot of wiggle room in what is and is not appropriate and how you should live your life. It's a creed.
No, absolutely. So I think that's definitely sort of some of the ways that I think it gets shown in media a lot. Also, of course, because it's a massive bureaucratic organization, it also, I think, oftentimes gets shown as sort of, like sometimes it can get used as like a black hand of the world kind of thing, because it does have its own agenda. When you're something as large as the Catholic Church, you carry, some kind of agenda at some level.
And there's a lot of like secrecy as well to it, because if you're not in the know, then there's no real way of like coming at it another way.
Absolutely. And so I think that it's all very interesting, and I think that those are definitely some of the ways that it gets highlighted the most.
For sure. But honestly, yeah, I think that Midnight Mass has been probably my biggest jump into, I guess, the most accurate version of, like, Catholicism in a sense. Like, I think it starts out pretty, like, this is a Catholic church in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, that's fair.
Most grounded, most realistic.
Because, the other thing about, you mentioned there are a few things that I wanted to talk about with Catholicism before we jumped too much into the show. So first of all, like I said, it's a shockingly huge, if you, like, you always hear that it's a huge organization. But if you really go and start looking into, like, just how huge the organization that is the Catholic Church, from the Pope, good old Pope Francis, who doesn't love a good Pope Francis meme.
Love Pope Francis.
From him down, it's an entirely huge organization. It's a massive, massive thing. And it's
the most successful pyramid scheme.
We're talking about him overseeing, all of the organization that has to essentially deal with Rome, and all of the organization that has to deal with its interactions globally. We're talking about it having to deal with how it manages and promotes and trains new members. We're talking about it overseeing very particular sets of churches that are broken down into Latin churches and Eastern churches that answer more directly to Vatican City. And then we're talking about, if you didn't know this, Vatican City is its own sort of separate little tiny government in the middle of Rome. And everything is built sort of, around it to where there's a lot of Rome now, but also a little tiny bit of Rome is also sort of considered Vatican territory, or like the domain of the Pope as well.
It's like Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
It's not a state.
It's this weird little place.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a gray area.
Yeah, just like Washington, D.C. Do they get states' rights?
No, because, it's the only people that really live there are people that are affiliated with the church. So it's an entirely religious state.
So weird. So you just get, like, people shipped in there. Like, there's no breeding happening there.
No, like, people, I think, go, and I think that it's almost like, if I was going to take a wild guess, I think that it's probably almost like stays on a ship. Like, you go, you've got a little quarter area that you live in for, a month or two on, and then you go back and you're, home for a month or so, and then you go back. I'm imagining that it's something like that.
Is the Pope married?
No.
Can the Pope be married?
No.
Fascinating.
Priest, no level of the priesthood can be married.
Still?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I'm mixing that up with another part of Christianity. Delightful.
I think it's Episcopals also kind of have like priests type figures or pastor type figures. I think it's pastor, and they are a little bit more. They're a little bit more like a priest, but not Catholic, and they can get married.
Okay. Fascinating. No, I it's one of those things, I guess. Like, I could have sworn. Like, I didn't think that the Pope could get married. I was genuinely asking that. But I was like, no, but, like, priests, right?
No level, and neither nuns.
I don't know why I knew nuns, but not... because, like, the whole thing is that they're married to God. But, like, priests aren't married to God. Because... they keeps calling God a he the whole time, and it kind of like defeats the whole like we don't like the gays thing.
But to your point, no level of them can, and I don't think that that's changing anytime in the near future. I mean I could be dead wrong. I don't keep up with Catholic affairs.
That's a lot of just like sipping that Kool-Aid.
But it's a massive organization. Like, it's really tremendously huge.
It's got tiers.
And then if you go and you look at something even as simple as, like, a parish level or sort of breakdown, and, like, a parish has, like, a single church assigned to it.
Okay.
And so then you're looking at a pastor. You're looking at a associate pastor and a parish secretary, and they have an administrative assistant. And then you're looking at someone to oversee the school, someone to be the pastoral ministers and handle those affairs, parish accountants, the pastoral council, finance committee, the director of music ministry.
I mean, that makes sense, but I really like the accounting one. He's counting those tads.
Man, money is going in and out and around.
It's an organization.
Yes, it is.
Oh my God, it's a business.
You need to account for every single dollar.
Oh gosh. Okay.
So that's a little bit on the sort of bureaucratic structure, which I found really fascinating. But then I wanted to talk also briefly about Mass as a concept. So, if you weren't in the know, I mean, most of our listeners, I imagine, probably do know at least a little bit about, like, Mass. It's essentially just communion, But
what is communion, for those who maybe don't know?
No, I know. I'm going to get to it.
Okay.
So Mass in and of itself is an entire... It's supposed to be a sacrament or some sort of, symbolic celebration of the Eucharist. The Eucharist is communion, or the Lord's Supper, and Mass in a Catholic sense is broken down into a sort of two-part system. It's not just, pulling out the bread, saying a quick prayer, and doing it. It's an entire sort of procedural thing that they have to do. Ceremonial thing that they have to do. And I said procedural, so I wanted to clarify. And so it's broken down into the liturgy of the Word and the liturgy of the Eucharist. And the liturgy of the Word includes the rites of passage of Mass. It has a reading from the Bible, from the Old Testament and then from the New Testament. It's then followed by a homily or a sort of sermon. And then following the sermon, there is also a prayer. From there, they move on to the presentation of the bread and the wine at the altar, and they are consecrated, and they're meant to become the body of Christ and the blood of Christ through a transformation process that is referred to in theology as transubstantiation.
Oh, right.
So this is a little interesting fun fact. Transubstantiation is the official change by which the substance of the bread and the wine become Christ's real presence of his body and blood through the act of prayer at this particular altar.
But they're just like a dry cracker, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the doctrine of this whole process was actually adopted sometime between the 13th and 15th century. Specifically at the... and it was officially codified during the process of the Council of Trent, which lasted from 1545 to 1563.
Wow.
You can find all this out on Britannica.com, by the way, if you're curious. And so that's kind of where this whole process, or this particular word, was sort of officially put into the doctrine. Mass had to be conducted in Latin until the 60s, and then they allowed Mass to be held in local dialects and languages. And that's kind of an overall sort of thing about Mass. And Mass, of course, comes from the Last Supper of Christ, which was a Passover event, celebration, where Jesus took
Seder.
Seder, that's the word. And Jesus went and took the bread, and then said that this is his body, eat of it, and took the wine, said that this is his blood, drink of it. And so it also then ties in with Easter, which is, of course, when he was, killed and then risen 3 days later, as the Bible says. And so...
Just downplayed crucified. He was killed. It was no big thing.
And so that's kind of the sort of brief summary of Catholicism and Mass.
Delightful, which is a lot of the show.
Yeah.
Like 100%.
Now I guess we'll go ahead and jump into Midnight Mass itself. Like we said, it was created by Mike Flanagan. The plot is an isolated island community experiences miraculous events and frightening omens after the arrival of a charismatic, mysterious young priest. And it stars Kate Siegel, Zach Gilford, Kristen Lehman, Samantha Sloyan, Igby Rigney, Raoul Coley, Alex Esso, Michael Trucco, Hamish Linklater, and Henry Thomas. And Mike Flanagan grew up Catholic.
I mean, I think that you have to in order to make something like this even remotely good.
And he sort of apparently dug back into religion very deeply at a certain point in his life, and sort of went looking for answers, I suppose, and came out of it more of an atheist. But he decided to go and tap into his Catholic roots again, and he apparently calls this his most personal show that he's done.
Interesting.
So now that they've listened to me ramble for a really long time, dear, what do you think of Midnight Mass?
Oh my gosh, I love it. It's awesome. Yay. We're talking about the show. No, I think it's fantastic. I think that all of the characters are really unique and interesting, but also very real and multi-leveled, and these are people that and I think that it's just a really like cozy feeling in that. I think that all of the character work is phenomenal. I think that the script, as usual, Mike Flanagan is fantastic. Maybe a little wordy in points, but you're you, so you like to chalk. I would equate like Mike Flanagan's writing style to like a modern day Shakespeare, like people monologue.
Soliloquies.
Oh yeah, totally. But it's about the words, and it's about the visuals, and it's about the thought and the rabbit hole that you're going down with said monologue. And I always really enjoy his stuff because I always think, yeah, I can totally put this on stage. And I think that that's such a fun exercise to go, no, this would work fine as a stage play. Like I don't really have any issues transposing this onto a different medium. And I think that it is so interesting how many different perspectives we get in these characters as well. We don't have like a lot of repeat thought processes, in this. We've got several, we've got a lot of characters that are all Catholic, that are all different in their own special ways, who have different beliefs and are still very religious. And then we've got, Raul Coley's character, the sheriff, who is a practicing Muslim with his son, and all of the like weird animosity that like happens in the goings of this show, that are like such a cool dynamic to like go down, especially in our modern time. And I think that it is also very just like relevant to now as well. It feels older than it visually, I guess, looks. But I think that it is really like just a profoundly interesting narrative for what's going on right now, not only in the world, in our in our home communities as well. Things that are happening here in the States are crazy. And I think that this, for me, really broke down a lot of different perspectives in a very human way, but also gave me like a good and a bad of each kind of varietal.
No, I see where you're at. It definitely, it definitely goes into what it wants to talk about, which is really the dangers of power, and things done in the name of certain ideas that end up getting warped and skewed and sort of twisted, that we've seen happen time and time again. That continues to happen, and so it's a very timeless thing. It's something that you see repeated so frequently that it's sort of an archetypal story. Mm-hmm. And I also think that you're right. I think that it's a very lived-in world. I think that Mike Flanagan does a really, really good job here, with like Haunting of Hill House and Bly Manor. The important thing are those locations, and same with like Gerald's Game and Hush. Mm-hmm. The really important thing to establish is those locations, mm-hmm. because they're very singularly focused on that. And here, even though it is a single location, it's a town. Mm-hmm. And so it has to seem believable of how far the geography is. What are the believable limits of how small it is?
No, yeah, I mean, speaking on that for a sec, like, people don't drive really anywhere.
No, it's like a walking community. You may drive down to, like, the dock.
But, like, we never saw, like, characters in a car.
No. To your point, no. We saw people on bikes before we saw, like, people on cars.
So, like, that's how small this community is. They say at, like, one point in the show very early on that there's, like, only 120 something people. Like, that's the population of Crockett Island. Like,
Of the crock pot.
that's right. Perfect. It's funny because it's only a half truth.
Well, and, you know, we talked on the episode with Allison about horror doesn't have to be scary. The show largely, you know, it's that thing of the horror being of the people and the circumstance, and the titrating up of tension to something that you know is going to be explosive. Whatever the outcome is, you know it's going to be, you know, breathtaking. And that's really how I think that this show functions, more than relying on, like, any of the sort of typical vampire stuff.
Oh, no, yeah. I think that...
Sorry, it's about vampires if you didn't know, but, like, you'll know within the first fucking episode that it's about vampires. It's pretty obvious.
And, yes, I mean...
And it's been out since September, so... Sorry about it, but it's about vampires.
It's about vampires. But no, to your point, I think that, okay, well then now that we've spilled the beans on that, I guess, I can talk a little bit further about not necessarily like the monster itself, but that's what I'm just going to refer to the angel, I guess is what they call him. But like, I'm just going to call it the monster because like, that's what it is. If this is a horror thing, this is my monster. Mm-hmm. You know, my Frankenstein's monster is this thing. I think that we see it just enough for it to be like a lingering force. But to your point, I think that it is about the people. It is about this kind of dissolving space. These people who have lived here their entire lives and are watching a community die around them and only have one thing to hold on to every week. And for a good number of them, it's going to mass. And it's this one thing, this speaking to God. It's going to make it all better. You know, it's comforting. And I think that that's why we lead down the line of the narrative itself. I think it's so good. I love it. Oh God. I could talk about this show all day.
No, to your point, everyone in the main cast pretty much has some sort of relationship to religion. Riley has searched far and wide and come up with the fact that he has nothing. You know, that he doesn't believe in any religious practice. Mm-hmm. Aaron truly believes in like a very just sort of earnest way. She, I think, doesn't necessarily care as much about the ceremony. She just honestly believes.
Yes.
And then, you know, his dad goes because his mother goes.
Yeah, and it's proper. It's the thing that you do.
And the mother goes because she's just a nice old Catholic mom.
Yeah.
And
she's
that's
just a good
what
person.
you do, and she likes going, and she likes hearing the homily, and she likes hearing the songs, and...
Yeah, it's a good time.
And it brings her joy, you know? It's like probably one of the happier points of her week, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
And so...
You know, bring you hope, and like she takes it with like a spoonful of sugar. Like she's just so nice.
And then you have, you know, Joe, who doesn't practice at all, and just doesn't care in any direction. He's just sort of living his life.
Oh my god! And then you have Bev, who is 150% believes that she is the best thing, and that God's gonna come down and literally ask her to marry him.
No, she's one of those people who has grown up reading it, cover to cover. She can quote scripture at you
She's
all
like
day long.
evil Hermione Granger for the Bible.
Yeah, that's apt. And she's very openly passive aggressive as well.
Yeah, but she's one of those people that plays it off like but I said something nice. It doesn't matter what my tone sounds like.
And so she's a very interesting person, because she kind of, that level of rigidity is also precisely why she was so able to be unwound. It was also her blind spot.
Well, that's also, why going back to earlier talking about horror taking the Catholic the Christianity, but most specifically Catholicism, because of that rigidity. You talking about her being unwound by, this power, this chaos, Of course it snapped her. She was trying so hard to be perfect. Her own version of perfect that the Bible crafted for her, that Catholicism, crafted for her. And she is this archetype that is a real beating heart of our nation, and that is an issue, because they're so blind. She's so blinded by what she deems is right that she's not willing to look at anybody else. Like, it's oh gosh, in the box thing. Oh, it's she's chaotic evil.
Oh, I think that she almost falls in like the lawful evil category.
Oh, okay. She's evil.
Yeah. And then you have Father Paul, who is very, very Hamish Linklater, the actor, is very good at delivering sermons.
Oh yeah.
And he does a great job at playing this kind of conflicted believer character who is also sort of, bought into, without realizing it, ultimate temptation in a way.
Yeah.
And I think that he does a really tremendous job in the show. Everyone does. I don't think that there's a weak player in the group for me.
No, because everybody gets a moment to really shine, and like as characters really get to like have their "you're gonna shut up and listen to me" moment. Basically, everybody gets a monologue. It's not like those are the leads and everybody else just gets a few lines here and there. Like, no, I think that they find a really great balance in the spotlight. It's a real ensemble piece.
It is. A few thoughts. First, I think that you can read the show also beyond, looking at the Catholicism sort of level of it. I think you can also go and look at it as a show largely about recovery. And I think that part of the reason that it's a personal journey for Mike Flanagan is he's multiple years sober now, openly.
Well, honestly, sorry, continue.
And I think that, like, with Riley being a recovering alcoholic, Erin being this woman who's trying to, like, get her life back together, the sheriff being this man who hasn't gotten over the death of his wife, I think that you see a lot of different modes of recovery and addiction as well. Joe is actively an addict. Father Paul is sort of addicted to God in a certain way, and also sort of his own idea of what he's looking for in life with this second chance. Bev is addicted to power. Ultimately, at the end of the day, any level of it that she can express over anyone is something that she grabs onto. And so I think that you can also look at it as something about addiction and recovery as well.
No, for sure. And I think that I really enjoy this also for the true these are people aspect of it. You know, everybody has a good moment. Everybody has a crappy moment. You know, in this, nobody gets to just walk away scot-free, an innocent bystander. You know, everybody has their good qualities and their bad qualities, which it's really nice to see. It's nice and balanced. They all feel real instead of like them feeling like caricatures. And like again, it is very, very talk heavy. It's very monologue show. But I think that it all works in context with the whole thing, because I think it's a journey for recovery, but it's also like talking about things that people don't talk about.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Always the hush hush thoughts. Like it's really like putting a stage for a lot of different ideas to float them all in the same space with equal importance, and you know that doesn't happen too often.
No. I think the other thing that's worth talking about is that this is definitely very heavily inspired by Stephen King.
Yes.
I think that he as a writer overall and a creator overall is very heavily inspired by King. But this in particular has a lot of that DNA of Salem's Lot, of desperation. You know, you've got like the teen sort of like, you know, kids with too much time on their hands kind of stuff that King does in things like Stand By Me and It, where they're going to the uppers for necking and smoking reefer. And, you know, I think that you get...
necking.
I think that you get a lot of those like Stephen King tones and textures, and I think that also works with the fact that the other two Netflix shows that he's done, Haunting of Hill House and Haunting of Bly Manor, are sort of collective works of two different writers, and I think that sort of is a similar thing here with King, with it being very heavily influenced by like a lot of King-isms.
No, I think that that's totally fair, and I think that that's also why it works. You know, as cliche, I guess, as it may sound, like, King has made a very successful career out of doing this. Like, his books sell because they're good. It's because they're interesting. You know, not everyone is a Jim, but they're all like a crazy world and a crazy ride to go down. And you know, nobody writes them like King. So like watching this, yes, it definitely oozes with Salem's Lot, and for sure with the Stand By Me aesthetic of the of the necking. It's great. That's what they're doing. They're sneaking away at night, you know, to go and hang out and just be teens.
No, that's right.
But I think that's also why it feels like so comfortable, so lived in as well, because like King also can create a fantastic world.
And you know, also he's done a lot of things that touch on religious tones as well.
Mm-hmm.
And like Bev King, I think, is right up there with sort of like the
Carrie's mom. Yes, yes.
Or I'm blanking on Misery.
Oh, that's what I was thinking, but
mm-hmm. Kathy Bates' character in Misery.
Is that character religious?
No, but she's psychotic.
Well, yeah, that's fair.
Annie Wilkes, there we go. I can't believe I forgot that. No, she reminded me a lot of Annie Wilkes as well.
No, I think that that's totally fair.
This very prim and proper, put together,
but obsessed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's really interesting. I do want to talk about our monster. I do want to talk about our literal vampire for a second. I think he looks great. I think that there are moments where he looks better than others, but I think that like the aesthetic is really like really creepy for the most part, and like even when you do there's like that one scene in the church where he's like just standing there with his wings open where I'm like, yeah, you've lost it officially. But other than that, I think that they use him just enough to like remind me that he's there, you know, always in the shadows kind of thing.
So there are a few moments where you see him a little bit before you see him. And the first one is where he meets one character, and I think you see too much of him it's the first time. And I think you see too much of him the first time.
You want it to be kind of like Kong, where you only get to see a foot.
Yeah, or you know, we only really saw for a little while there like the eyes and a little bit of the face, but not really too much.
Yeah, very shadowed.
And I think that then they start to show, you know, too much of him very quickly.
No, I think that that's fair.
The next big time that we see him with another character, I think that he's really used effectively. He's out of focus. He's, you know, very cloaked. And he's moving very strangely, you know, in sort of the background. And I think that he works great sort of in those places.
No,
but
I
do
that's
think
fair.
They show him a little bit too much up front, to where then I have too good of an idea of how he looks. So then when I see him at the end, I'm like, no, yeah.
I think that my biggest, just like my nitpick of the night for the show is going to be the Monsignor character.
Okay.
Not like the whole thing, just, I don't think that we get to see enough of him for him to really be a character. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I think that the actor who's playing him is doing a great job. I just do not think that that's the part that is where that, you know, he thrives. You know what I mean? Because like the Monsignor goes on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land and he has dementia, and so everybody is like, I don't know if Monsignor's gonna make it back. Like, that's the whole, like, opening, the whole joke of the first episode.
I don't think that we get enough, to your point of, without getting too far into spoilers, or a little bit of a spoiler warning going forward. Do we want to give it a quick rating before we...
I mean, finish your thought, please.
Okay. I think that they don't give me I was having this thought. I was like, I wonder what the Monsignor preached like, you know, before we meet him in the show and see him give a sermon. I was like, I wonder what he preached like.
Well, yeah, I think that you're having a hard time without giving anything away at this moment with your thought. No, I think that Monsignor Pruitt is not a character.
Yeah.
And I think that if the people on Crockett Island didn't sell it, none of those like flashes to Monsignor that we actually get from like these memory perspectives would like ever actually work on their own, because I just don't think, you know, it looks like a dude in a really crappy old man suit.
Yeah.
Like, it just does. Like, there's just no getting around that for me. But that's my nitpick.
No, and I definitely, it was something that had crossed my mind as well, for sure. What was that presence? You know, it doesn't make any sense.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, it explained why, like, when Father Paul got there was, like, 5 people in church.
Yeah.
Because, like, I don't want to be preached at by old man Monsignor with his dementia.
Old man Smithers.
Like, oh my gosh, no. We would be there all day.
No, that's really fair.
And I don't want to sit in an uncomfortable pew all day.
No, those things did look uncomfortable.
Not good. Not good for church naps.
So if you had to rate Midnight Mass out of and this was our second watch of it. I did mention that before, but this was our second watch. Did your opinion of it change at all?
Oh, no, I think that the show, I think that honestly, actually, I think that the show was tighter this second time through because I kind of knew where we were going a little bit more.
And you see so many clues along the way in the second pass.
No, yeah, and I didn't feel like, I felt like there was, like, just enough, mood and atmosphere with everything that we get, that it's just like a really smooth ride that is like really emotionally satisfying and just full, you know. I really enjoy it, and like I can't recommend it enough. If you literally can't watch anything scary or you'll pee yourself, this isn't it for you. I'm so sorry. I would love for you to watch it. But if the slightest bit of scare doesn't push you away, definitely watch this show. I think it's phenomenal. I'm going to give this show a 5.
No, I think that that's really fair. I'm gonna go just a little bit 4.5.
Just a little bit 4.5.
Just a little bit.
That's the sneakiest way to just put a 4.5 down that I've ever. Just a little bit 4.5.
And no, I think that this is absolutely tremendous. I think he does a really, really great job with it. I think that because the narrative does have to stay tight, you know, this is something that you could have bloated into 3 seasons if you would wanted to.
Oh God, for sure. This could have been like, what was that show with the fairy tale people? That was like Lost.
I'm blanking on it completely, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
It could have been that. It could have been Once Upon a Time.
There we go.
It could have been literally that show Once Upon a Time, where once you hit the 3rd season, you were like, this thing is never going to end, and I think I have to jump off. And that's what you did. You know, it could have really been just terrible.
And so I think that there are certain elements that I could have, and plot points and characters that I could have seen worked with more. But beyond that, no, I think it's absolutely tremendous because it does really focus in, and it could have been so bloated of a story. And I think he tells one that's impactful, that's human, that stands by, you know, exactly what it is, to the end. And I think it also does a good job of using Catholicism to its fullest potential as something that is valuable to some people, but dangerous, you know, in its own regard. You know, it shows it like anything else. It's how you use it, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And it, you know, they use Catholicism to stand in the place of power and authority, really. And so I think it's really tremendous. So just a little 4.5.
Just a little 4.5. Just a sprinkle of 4.5. No, and you had made a point earlier that I wanted to talk on, and I completely forgot, but it came back to me. So, you had said that Mike Flanagan was very into, well, he was very religious growing up.
Yeah, he was raised Catholic.
And very into Catholicism. And then he had his issues with drugs and alcohol, I don't know, alcohol, and is now sober. And so I was like, the Riley character is 150,000% and became an atheist. 150,000%.
Yeah, he pulled a Stephen King, and he just
Mike Flanagan is right there. I don't know what Mike Flanagan looks like, but now he looks like Riley in my brain because that's him.
No, he pulled a hard Stephen King. Because Stephen King put bookish writers.
Oh yeah, and everything, because that's exactly the
English teachers.
Yes. No, for sure, and I really enjoyed the fact that like everybody kind of got their moment to shine. Like I've never seen somebody like spit out like the Bible like it was the hottest lyrics on your favorite rap album. Like they were saying those lines like they were in a goddamn Shakespeare play, and I was like, wow, this is the only way to read the Bible. I think that if the Bible was a legit stage play with these people playing it and Mike Flanagan directing it, I think I would actually like sit down and be like, all right, I'm gonna learn about the Bible today.
Well, if you think about it, especially I think some of the Old Testament stuff.
Old Testament is bananas.
It's kind of like the first horror imagery, of storytelling for a lot of people.
Well,
people being turned into salt, monsters,
it's
giants.
It's to keep people in line, so it's to tell you all of the bad things that happen to people who step out and all the good things that happen to people who stay in the way, and that's how you get to live a good and happy, boring, safe life.
And so it's also a pretty, I was thinking about it and, looking at the numbers of people, it's also such a foundational text that when you're looking at the Bible and storytelling, whether it's just, non-horror storytelling, you've got so many archetypes that are baked into storytelling that come from the Bible. Oh, it's a David and Goliath story. And so you've got so many of these foundational, fundamental concepts and archetypes of storytelling that great stories have been told with that are based on formulas that, go all the way back to the Bible of storytelling. And then with horror, so many of, the transgressions and the things that are repressed and the things that return are things that transgress largely the societal laws and norms that have been set up by a culture, fundamentally influenced by the Bible and the dominant culture.
I mean, honestly, you're right, because like I said earlier, at the core of Christianity is to spread, to get more of itself. It's unlike other religions that are either like a family-based thing that spreads that way through traditions and through children, and then there's like, the other option of just it being a religion that people go to find something of themselves. But like, no, Christianity, like, of course it is in our foundational stories, and we have these just terms that we use and people understand what that means because of the fact that it is polluted every part of Western culture, honestly, even to the point where now we celebrate, Christmas with the birth of Jesus and Santa Claus in equal amounts of like enthusiasm.
No, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, most of our bank holidays are based around Christian, things. So I think that, of course, it makes total sense, but like, and then you would go somewhere else in the world that Christianity isn't the dominant religion in that area, and I'm sure that these things would, be completely new to them, or like something that like maybe somebody talked about down the road, kind of like how, no, I'm not gonna compare it to any way that we describe other religions, because
going to Mother India, so much of that story was based on like Hindu narratives and Hindu stories.
Yes. It was that was an epic in itself too.
But no, so that's I think that religious horror is a very fascinating concept, because again, so much of it is so fundamental to the dominant sort of mainstream heteronormative, culture of the West, and it's something that has, and you see it across the whole spectrum, great beauty and possibility, for people, and you see that in storytelling. But then you also go and it absolutely is the perfect sort of playground for creating not just monsters that sort of break the norms of Catholicism and Christianity, but also end up becoming sort of foundational narrative storytelling elements.
I loved how much they wove the Bible and made it literal and made it a part of the plot and made it like just it was so tight. It was so good. They would, I loved how much they were like, this is eat of my flesh was not just like a figurative thing anymore. It was a literal concept that these people were like, yes, I will drink of your blood. Like, let's make this a normal thing. There was no like, there were no red flags going up in like any of these people's mind. Not a lot of them, honestly. Everybody was like, yeah, no, this is right. This guy is onto something over here, and then there were just like a few people who were just like, no, this is wrong. This is weird. What are we talking about?
Well, and it goes back to also how the show regularly subverts certain imagery from the Bible.
I love it. I could talk about it all day. Literally. It's got layers. As Donkey said, it's like an onion. It's got layers.
Moving on from Midnight Mass and religious horror, there were a few things that I thought that we could touch on as just sort of some final notes. First of all, relating to Mike Flanagan, Frank Langella was cast in his new The Fall of the House of Usher show, which is a culmination of Edgar Allan Poe works into one series.
Wait, why is it called The Fall of Usher?
That's a Poe story.
Oh, okay. You know where my brain went? Right to the singer.
Oh, no.
I thought it was going to be like an OJ thing, but about Usher.
No. Close, but no cigar.
Oh, gosh. And you said Edgar Allan Poe, and I was like, wait.
And it's got a whole bunch of classic Flanagan players, like Raoul Coley.
Raoul Coley. I'm so happy for your career.
But then it also has Mark Hamill.
Oh.
And it had Frank Langella. But he...
So, real quick, who is Frank Langella?
The idiot asshole judge from Trial of the Chicago 7.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I needed a face. I really did. I didn't know that man's name.
He has left the show after an investigation for misconduct.
Oh.
And they're apparently pretty far into production, so they're going to have to recast the role and I imagine do some reshoots. But I mean, if Suicide Squad could do it with one of its principal characters, then I'm sure that Mike Flanagan can manage. Not Suicide Squad, Peacemaker.
Wait.
The Peacemaker show, they did reshoots with one of the principal characters.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
The Vigilante.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I was like, what on earth are you talking about? I was too busy thinking about Army of Darkness.
But no, yeah, Frank Langella was going to be in it, but they had to recast, or they're going to have to recast. I'm glad that there were appropriate actions taken after there was, a complaint filed, and that appropriate action, led to the right consequences of behavior.
Yeah, no, that was really quick. They were like, no, we're not going to wait until we're going to pretend like they're not in this at all in all of our marketing. Cough, cough, cough. The Murder on the Nile, or whatever the hell that movie's name is.
Oh, Death on the Nile?
Yeah, where it's like, it definitely doesn't have Armie Hammer in it.
Don't you fret. He's nowhere near here. Who?
She's the bride, but to no one.
No, and, Frank Langella, is a great actor, who has done a lot of really wonderful things. I did not enjoy him in Trial of the Chicago 7. I thought he was a little one-note.
I don't remember a lot of that movie.
But, it is good that he faced the correct consequences for his actions. It's a shame that happened.
Yeah, well, sometimes when you act like an asshole, you gotta get the right punishment, or else you'll continue to act like that, and then you won't be able to become the beautiful, amazing person that you're supposed to be.
No, that's fair. But no, it's I'm not sure who they're going to recast with. They haven't said anything. I'm not sure who I can think of off the top of my head that I consider like Frank Langella type. And I don't know also
fair.
what the character is, so it's also kind of hard to just sort of guess which of the Frank Langella types you needed.
No, that's fair. My brain is just saying, constantly screaming, not Chevy.
I was thinking, it depends. I think that you could potentially go with maybe like a Dustin Hoffman.
Oh, Dustin Hoffman is good. I had somebody, but I don't know his name, and so I've been trying to desperately think of something that I can name that he's been in, which has been a rabbit hole for me.
I think I've got another suggestion for an actor who is considerably, I believe, older. No, he's around the same age as Langella. They could go with Michael Gambon.
The Bambino.
The second Dumbledore.
Oh.
He's a Frank Langella type.
No, yeah. I was just thinking about him running down those stairs and screaming at Harry Potter. Did you put your name in that goblet?
Beyond that, we watched the Stranger Things 4 trailer this week. What did you think of it, dear?
I'm excited about it. I am. I really enjoy the franchise, and I know that I'm going to like it. Right now, the commercial, the trailer. Thank you. Gosh, I don't know why my brain just is like shut down. I thought that the trailer was fine. I think that that's probably where I live with the trailer itself. It's like, it's very safe. It's like, look, here's all of your favorite characters doing things again.
I wish they didn't show the monster at the end. That would have been a nice reveal.
I that's how I felt about them showing David Harbour.
That's fair.
I was like, you could have let me linger a little bit more about this. Like, I think that I would have been a little bit more excited when he showed up if I didn't know that he was literally going to be there, considering like he maybe died in the last season. But now we know. That's it. I don't even need to watch the show now.
No, I get where you're coming from with that. I think that this is going to be the last season, which I think is probably for the best.
No, I think that that's fair. It feels like a last season. The plot from what we gathered from the trailer feels very much like we're wrapping this thing right on up. We're gonna have one more final bang with our favorite players doing our favorite things, monsters in another dimension, and we're gonna put a bow on this and call it a day.
I'll be curious to see what they're kind of pulling on reference wise for this one.
Mm-hmm.
They always pick particular films and filmmakers to use as influence for each season. So I'll be curious to see. I enjoy the show still. Season 1 is still the best one.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer season 3 to season 2, but like nothing has really touched that first season. The last thing that I wanted to talk about was they announced the Cannes film list, the lineup.
Okay.
The Cannes Film Festival is, of course, a French film festival. I'm not going to read the whole list.
So are you saying can as in like a can of beans, or are you saying cam as in a camera?
It's Cannes. It's where it is. It's the location.
Oh. Well, that was definitely not on my radar. I don't speak French.
So I won't, like I said, I won't read you the whole list. They have a few things that are there in varying contexts. One is a new film, 3,000 Years of Longing, from George Miller, who directed Mad Max Fury Road. They're also going to be showing there the Elvis film by Baz Luhrmann.
Is that really how you spell Baz? Fascinating.
And then the big one, they've got a Jerry Lee Lewis documentary coming from Ethan Coen.
Oh, okay.
But the big one that everyone is talking about right now, of course, is, or at least on Twitter they are, if you follow that sort of thing, is Crimes of the Future, the new David Cronenberg movie with Léa Seydoux, Kristen Stewart, and Viggo Mortensen, which we just watched a trailer for. And it's David Cronenberg who did The Fly, and Crash, not the one that you're thinking of, a different one. And Eastern Promises and A History of Violence. And so we just watched the trailer for it. Dear, what did you think of the trailer for The Crimes of the Future?
Currently I have no idea what this movie is about. Other than the fact that it is maybe about some crime, but mostly about future stuff. Because you can see some future tech things from a mile away. Whatever some person was like, this is what the future looks like. Some very Tron Legacy kind of what is that movie that we've got the script for in the other room? Ex Machina, it's the future.
Blade Runner 2049.
Exactly. We're like, ooh, so smooth, so fancy, things fly now. So I was so distracted by all of the interesting ways that they were positioning people in the trailer, and all of the future things that they were doing and stuff. But I have no idea what this movie is about, and honestly, other than the shock of the face sewn shut, there was really nothing really to grab onto. You know what I mean? It was just kind of like a visual thrill ride.
No, I think that's fair. It is going to be a body horror film.
Oh,
it's the
okay.
first body horror film that he has done in at least a decade or more.
Well, then that explains the face sewn shut.
No, absolutely. And the weird sort of surgery sequence that you see as well.
Yes. Well, so far the best body horror movie that I've seen is Titan.
Yeah.
That movie is, whew, it's rough
Great
in some
movie.
spots. Makes you uncomfortable.
But that's pretty much all that I had wanted to talk about. I don't think that we've watched anything since... No, we haven't. Since we did the Everything Everywhere All at Once, Buds Being Buds, and Ambulance, which we still need to add.
Oh, yeah, we didn't add those to the list. Oh, yeah, because this is literally says Prince of Darkness is the last movie we watched.
Yeah, so...
No, we need to add those to the list.
But other than that, we haven't...
slacked.
Yeah, other than that, we haven't watched anything. So that's pretty much all that we have for you all. go and listen to that episode of Buds Being Buds.
Yeah, it's about us doing something new. I mean, like, newer than this, and I think that this is pretty new for us, honestly.
And then we also have a written review that you can go and check out. Next week we're getting out of religious horror, but we are still going with another April holiday. We're celebrating Earth Day.
Yes.
And to celebrate Earth Day, we decided to go with two versions of sort of nuclear disaster. We're going with the original 1954 Godzilla and the movie The China Syndrome from the 70s with Jane Fonda and Michael Douglas.
Yeah, so that should be fun.
Yeah, I've seen it before, but like a long time ago.
I haven't seen... I think I've seen the 1950s Godzilla, but that's been a while, and I've never seen the China Syndrome.
But yeah, so we've got that coming up, and then the week after that we'll be doing Arbor Day, and that's going to be a 2-guest show. I'm not going to reveal who they are yet, but definitely get ready for that. We're having 2 previous friends of the show on, and we'll be celebrating Arbor Day, and I'll let you try and figure out what movies we're watching for Arbor Day.
Ooh.
If
I'll give you a hint. They're about trees.
So that's kind of all that we have going on right now. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, on Instagram. Tell people about us. We've got all of our important links down below. Send us questions.
Yeah, we haven't had a listener question in eons.
Yeah. And also go and give us a review. That's about all that I have. Dear, do you have anything you want to say to the listeners?
No, I mean, what are you guys watching?
Yeah, you can also let us know. The last thing I'll say is, sorry if anyone got offended by any of our takes on religion. Religion is a personal choice, and certainly you're free to do however you feel. It's just not necessarily, I guess, something that we have any particularly strong attachment toward.
No, it's more of a thing to study from like an outside perspective, for me.
So, but, if we did bother anyone,
we apologize.
So, it certainly is never intended in any kind of ill will. Because again, everyone is free to do however they would like to.
Yeah.
So.
But religious or not, I think you should watch Midnight Mass.
That's right. And listen to this episode.
Yeah, I mean, if they've gotten this far, they already have.
Yeah, we'll listen to the previous one, rather. But thanks you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you all next week. Bye. Bye.